Hello, everyone. This is Big Alski,
And this is JTB.
and we are in Chapter 9 of Alhazard's Ninja Gaiden Sigma Hard Comer Run. Uh, Here comes some exciting parts of the game, the zombie farming sections.
Yep. I always kind of like that about NGO because when you first, I don't know about you, but when I first fought the zombies in that game, you kind of don't know what to do against them because you don't kind of realize just how stupid they are and you can do anything to them. Yeah, and when they introduced charging UTs in NGB, that was one of the first things I kind of enjoyed was just standing there and charging flail UTs on them. Because they're just, as an enemy, they are kind of funny because they're not really that dangerous, but there are times when you can kind of think to yourself, oh, I don't really have to bother about them, and then in the blink of an eye, they can take half your life. If they hit you into another hit from another zombie. That's the one thing about them. They're really, really slow, but they do hit pretty hard. If they do hit you, they take off quite a bit.
Right. So here, just knowing how to stagger the enemies, what weapons to use to make it within the time limit, the spacing.
Spacing's always a big thing for zombies. One thing as well to note, there are a few...
Right there. See, there's a spacing issue right there.
Yeah, exactly. That definitely should have been a UT. He could have gone all the way to the back, really, because he wouldn't have had them all surrounding him, but I really always loved how, where Ryu's foot is right there, he always kind of moves to, the contours of the environment. I always thought that was cool. But yeah, one thing to note as well, the enemies, you get some of those blue, ghost thing enemies in this room, which is always nice. And the windmill shuriken's really good for them. Rio's auto targeting is fairly reliable on them. More often than not, he will go for them as opposed to the zombies. It is pretty annoying when he goes for the zombies, but it's pretty good. It's a pretty good kind of way to stagger your essence a little bit. Jump away and just throw the windmill shuriken, and you'll be able to kill those guys.
Yeah. So again, we can't stress, important how to maximize, again, with the spacing, the extra rolls, all that stuff, it just adds up.
Yeah.
Say again, because of the extra rolls or some of the other things that he done, maybe he could have got a UT there. Again, not trying to talk bad. I'm not.
Yeah. He could have swapped to the flails there. He would have been able to get a UT. I think the reason he rolled is because looking at the distance, I myself would have done the same thing. I would have rolled because he may not have hit him with the dragon sword. He may have done, but he might not have done. But I just thought if he'd have swapped to the flails, the dash on the flails is about twice the distance of the dragon sword. So he definitely would have been able to just use the flails there and get a UT. And again, in this room, you have those blue guys floating around, which is really handy.
So I guess one reason why I'm kind of harping on it is just to show that it may not seem like a big deal, but it really is when you're going for karma. Now, if you're not going for karma, it's not a big deal. Who cares? But, to really maximize your score, all this stuff comes into play, and the average person who doesn't play for karma might not even, think about that. But, it really shows up here. And in other people's runs, too. I mean, don't get me wrong. I've got some junk karma runs, but...
Yeah, and there's plenty of mistakes in the stuff that I've got as well. It's not, as you say, it's not a criticism of the player. It's just sort of looking at the level in the game. Now this encounter, if I remember rightly, this encounter has less enemies than the one that follows it, or is it the other way around?
I think this one has more.
Right, this one has more, yeah. Because you have these imps to worry about as well. Kind of up to you which weapon you use, really. The archers are something that you really do want to make sure you take out as quickly as you can, because they are the enemies in here that will spawn quite far away from Ryu no matter what. Whereas the enemies, the light and dark zombies tend to spawn relatively close to where Ryu is, whereas you can see the archer zombies always spawn quite far away, which is going to cost you time to get over there and hit them. So you want to make sure you have your essence staggered in a way so you can get over there straight away and get your UT on them and take them out.
Well, do you think, he killed a couple guys, and then, or when he killed the archer, some of the essence was already right there. Could he have used that essence to kill, the regular zombie guys, and then use the essence from killing the regular zombie guys to go kill the archers that have spawned instead of having to jump around and wait for everything? I mean, again, all this is just running some ideas by.
Yeah.
Maybe he tried all of that. I mean, there's a lot of trial and error.
Yeah, definitely. That's a really good sneaky UT there. I really like that. It's not like he gets a bit greedy there. He goes to the second one. I don't blame him. But that's a really good use of those enemies to get UTs. So those blue guys are really weird with their aggression. Sometimes they will just stand there and like never even bother you. Other times they're like the wasp fiends in a lot of ways. Other times they'll ignore you. Other times they'll just like almost kill you out of nowhere. It's like, whoa, what the hell hit me? So there again, that's the little Kiori trick from NGB. You'll see in the red room that you don't actually have to do that, which is quite nice, because that trick is very, very consistent in the blue room, but I feel the platforms are just a little bit higher in the red room. It makes it a lot more inconsistent on your flip-ups to actually get them to land. So that was always one change I really liked about this. They made these rooms just far more consistent in that regard.
How many times did you forget about and jump off and jump right into one of those swinging maces?
Every time. We could call that the JT special. I always do that because you forget it's there. Because my short-term memory in this game is terrible. So you kill those enemies and you're like, right, I'm gonna go get this scarab. And you jump off and it makes a great noise when it hits you. It's like, doof.
Well, it's funny because he just falls and just like lands on his back just flat. It's just like, ugh.
Yeah, it really is cool. A lot of the animation in this game, I think, is what kind of keeps it looking. It does a lot to keep the game looking good because the animation is really, really nice. Fun fact for anybody that doesn't know, if I remember rightly, I think they actually did some motion capture for the game as well. Like it was a lot of motion capture blended with animation. It's probably why everything looks really, really good for the most part.
So again, it's important to know the enemy count on this.
Yeah, it's 19 in this fight, isn't it? So it is slightly less in this one.
I think there's only 18. I think this is it.
Yeah, I mean, like, this is the 19th kill. So.
Oh, yeah, that's right. Duh.
I knew what you meant.
Stellar commentary by Big Alski, guys.
So one thing to note as well, actually, I don't think we mentioned it yet, but I mean, it should be pretty obvious, but the reason he's swapping to the flails, the flail UT, the starting hit of it is actually very, very strong. There's a lot of damage in that starting hit. So if you're, kind of pressed for time and you want to try and charge up that UT, make sure you swap to the flails because you could very easily make a time limit with the flails that you would fail with the dragon sword because the dragon sword's power in the UT is kind of spaced throughout the animation. Where the flails, the starting hit is really strong, the little kind of flurry combo in the end is like garbage, it does hardly any damage, and the final hit of the flail is, is ridiculous. That's where all the damage is in the UT.
And there's nothing like getting shot by a zombie and then falling in the water. Here, I think I would have started out with the fire wheels.
Yeah, I would too, definitely. One thing to note in Sigma, as we've said it before, you really just don't have to give a shit about your essence. You can really abuse it. The start of this fight does go pretty bad. The first UT was, I'm assuming it was probably he meant to do a cleaning blade, but it was just a misinput. And he goes for a follow-up UT and gets flying swallowed by the cat fiend. If he'd rolled away, he probably would have been able to get that extra ET. One thing to note about Hydra Cubus, he does have a set amount of time where you can actually deal damage to him when his tentacles are removed. But if you actually start a combo or a hit, like a UT, just as he's going out of it, you'll still get the full damage of that UT. It kind of extends it. You can see that in a lot of the lower difficulty runs, because you're able to kill him in one removal of his tentacles, and that's why. Like, you should only be able to get 2 UTs, but because of the Gleaming Blade's speed, you can actually get 3 and kill him in 1, which is very, very handy.
Now here, that column that comes out, I mean, it comes out on both sides, so you can go back up and save. Yeah. On the other side, not this side, because I think if there is a save statue here, again, it's been so long, if you save at this statue and try to restart, this is not going to be a timed fight, just like it was at NGB. I mean, correct me if I'm wrong, but I think that's right, isn't it?
No, that's correct. Yeah, there is still a save statue, but if you save there, it will still be timed the first time, obviously. But if you save and then restart, it won't be a timed fight. And the start of it, you can actually incendiary both of the zombies the way you want to do that. When you actually throw the incendiaries, you can actually direct the trajectory of them by using the joystick. So, for example, you've got those 2 zombie enemies, and if you push the joystick to the right, 9 times out of 10, because Ryu does have his moments, but 9 times out of 10, he will actually throw it, to an enemy that's on your right. So you can actually do 2 incendiaries and charge a UT. Although he still does get 2 blues, so it might even out looking at it. It all kind of depends on, what goes right at the time, really.
Well, that's one thing I'm sure you don't plan for, is to miss and then get 2 blues. But again, like you said, it did work out, so there was no charge time.
Yeah.
So it might have all worked out the same, but you can start that off. I don't know if you can restart the fight and there's some zombies down in the pit that you could, shoot an arrow. You would do that in Ninja Gaiden Black.
I'm pretty sure those enemies still respawn. One thing to note as well, you don't actually get the ghost fish in Signal.
You get that in hard?
I think they're in hard, aren't they? Yeah.
Okay.
Pretty sure. I think that's where they start.
Right.
They added quite a few ghost fish encounters in, like in Black. Remember the first time you opened a chest and it had ghost fish in it? And you're like, whoa!
Well, this right here, didn't you? Weren't you the one that came up with this loop?
Yeah, I was. You can also actually do it with the dual swords. The only downside to the dual sword, that was a really nice on-landing X right there.
He does it this whole time too. Yeah, I love
really
the on-landing X.
Yeah, you can do it with the dual katanas. The combo is different, but it's kind of up to you. They do the same damage, really, so it doesn't really make a difference.
Well, his Alma fight was really good. Chapter overall was very good. And I believe that's it. The time limit's 30 minutes. The kills are 121. Again, they didn't take into account the Fiend challenge, but, that's the way it goes. Anyway, that's it for Chapter 9. We'll see you in the next chapter.
Take care, guys.